This is page 70 in your math journal. We're just going to call it more percent problems. Okay, now that you've worked with percents, you understand that it means comparing out of 100. And sometimes we need to find the part, sometimes we need to find the whole, and sometimes we need to find the percent. So once again, we're going to write our equation up here. Whole times percent equals the part. Another way to think of it is or of. Remember, whole, a key word there is of. Part, a key word is. Okay. Another thing you might think of here would be the original. And this would be the new. Okay, these are all clues. The percent is always going to be a percent. So let's do a couple more story type problems that might take a little bit more thinking. But I want you to pay attention carefully to the wording. Okay, so this first one, let's write the sale price of a table is $160. This is 20% off. No, sorry, this is 20% off the original price. What was the original price? Okay, this one you're going to have to do some thinking. A lot of times you just want to read it and take the numbers and run with it. Well, there's a few things I want you to pay attention to here. The sale price of a new table is $160. Okay, first of all, I want you to think, is this the whole or is this the part? In this case, the sale price is the new price of the table, so it's going to be the part. So I'm going to put 160 right there. But here's where you're really going to get thrown off. It says this is 20% off the original price. So is 160 20% of the original? No, because it's off. 20% off. This is not 20% of it. I need the of percent. So this is where, not too hard, but you got to do a little thinking. 100% would be the original minus the 20 that was taken off. Okay, remember we're doing percents here. So what percent of the price is remaining? 80% would be remaining. Okay, the reason this one is hard for some people is because they want to just put the 20% here. And if you do that, it will be wrong. This is how much is remaining. This is 80% of the original. 20% was taken off. 80% is what's remaining. So I'm going to put 0.8. And now I'm trying to figure out what the whole amount is. So with this, it was multiplied to get me 160. So I'm going to think backwards. So I would divide by 0.8. So I'm going to divide this by 0.8. Okay, if I set the problem up over here, 160 is inside the box. 0.8, I'm going to have to move my decimal one time to make that just 8, but I have to move it here as well. 8 goes into 16 2 times. Minus 16 leaves me with 0. Bring that down. Since I have 2 zeros and I've already gotten to 0 here, I know that these will be 0 as well. So 200 is my new answer. So I divided 160 by 0.8 and I got 200. That means the whole, or the original price of the table was $200. Okay, let's try another one like this. Let's see, let's do there was 15 gallons of punch for a party. Only 7 gallons remain. What percent of the punch was drank? What percentage of the punch was used? I like that wording better. Okay, read it carefully, pick out what you know, but think about the situation. So, thinking about my whole times percent equals part. And I want to know what percentage of the punch was used. Okay, this is where I need to fill in the correct information. If I put 7 here, since I'm trying to find what percent of the punch was used, was 7 the amount used? No, 7 gallons remain. That's what's left. So I need to figure out what the part remaining is. So I'm going to fill this in. Well, 15 minus 7 would be 8. So 8 gallons is what's left. Or, sorry, what was drank. 15 is the whole, or the original amount of punch. And now I need to times by the percent. Okay, I can't times by the percent because I don't know it, so I'm going to have to think backwards. So instead of timesing by 15, I need to do the opposite. So I'm going to divide by 15. So I'm going to divide this by 15 as well. 8 divided by 15. 15 goes into 8 0 times. Decimal place, annex 0. 15 goes into 80 5 times. That would be minus 75. That leaves me with 5. Annex another 0. Bring it down. 15 goes into 50 3 times. 3 times 15 is 45. Leaves me with 5, and it's going to keep doing that forever and ever and ever. Notice I got that. I'll have another 50 and it'll keep going. So this would keep going 3, 3, 3, 3. Now that's in its decimal form. So in its percent form. So my percent equals 0.533, repeating. So this would be 53.3%. That would be my final answer. But notice on this one, don't just jump to the conclusion of the numbers you're given. It asked for what percentage of the punch was used. This part needed to be the used to answer my question. Or we could have figured out what percent was remaining and then minus that from 100. Both would work, but you have to make sure that you are answering the question. Okay, one more. A car costs let's do 20,000. $20,000 brand new. It now is worth $14,000. What percent of the original price did it decrease? Okay, let's figure out what we know, solve for what we don't. So we want to know what percent of the original price did it decrease. So the original price is going to be my whole unit. So I'm going to put 20,000 there. Times, percent is what we're looking for, so I'm just going to draw the percent sign there. Equals, okay, this is where we got to read it. What percent of the original price did it decrease? Is 14,000 how much it decreased? No. How much did it decrease from 20,000 to 14,000? It decreased 6,000. So 6,000 would be the amount it decreased. Okay, from here, I want to figure out what percent of 20,000 6,000 is. So these would multiply. Since I don't know what the percent is, I need to undo the multiplication. So I'm going to divide by 20,000. So divide by 20,000 over here. Okay, this one might be easier for me to think as a fraction, which is why I wrote it with a line over here. Well, 6,000 over 20,000. If I reduce this, I know that 1,000 will go into both of those, so I'm just going to reduce it to make it a little easier for me to work with. If I decrease by 1,000, that leaves me with 6 out of 20. That's a little nicer for me to work with, so I'm going to do 6 divided by 20 and see what I can get. 20 goes into 6, 0 times, so I'm going to annex a 0 and put my decimal on. 20 goes into 60, 3 times. Minus 60 gives me 0, so I have 0.3. 0.3 is not in its percent form, so since my percent equals 0.3, if I move the decimal, that would be 30%. So it decreased 30% of its original price to the price that it's now worth. Okay, the whole reason we went through this one, it was much like yesterday's, except for I want you to make sure you are watching the wording of the problems. We had to pay attention to what it was asking for. How much did it decrease, or how much punch was used? Read the wording properly and make sure you answer the correct question.